Null check. Null check. Beslan, so I guess we still hold the north of the mountains. Might fly from Beslan. Oh, actually, that's probably a closer. Let me just get my browser open here. At least the Steam browser, because if I open my actual browser, I'll fucking blow my PC up. Check the live tracker. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty late for Cold War, so I'm not surprised. Especially on a Friday. For those of you in the other corner of the world. Okay, well the gadget doesn't want to load. Oh. And it loads right as I hit refresh. That's some good shit right there. Oh shit. No, that's Syria. Where is... map, Caucasus 80s. Let's see. Yeah, the usual. Red is north, blue is south. The fight's in the mountains. Kazbegi is under attack, it looks like. But... Zelenchukskaya might be interesting to fly from. Yeah, let's try that. This is probably going to be a disaster though. Six lives. Oh, you have 6 lives in the hind. Intriguing. I'll just get myself a bit more comfortable here. Actually, no. What I'll do is... JTAC squad. Yeah, boy. It's already started me off with a reasonable loadout. Change that to 13. We'll take the weathered livery. Happy days. Not that one. We want that. Those. And then... all the circuit breakers. Hello, Rita. That one. That switches for an external tank, which we're not carrying. Rotor brake. I always forget that step. And then from here, we want to go basically southwest. Where is it? Archiz. Archiz. Probably on the other side of the border. I don't know. I put the fire extinguisher power switch on. I did it afterwards, but it's on. Bro, half these fucking towns don't even have names on the map. How do people spot this shit? Oh, here we go. So... Oh, that's right, you got fucking own position markers on blue flag. Lame. But, 214 for 44. Rabota means working. Or it means work specifically. So contra is short for like control, which is test, and then rabota means working, so it's in working mode. If I wanted to test it, I'd flip the system over to the other position. That's the fire extinguisher there. Oh wait, no, the actual power? Yeah, you're right, I'm dumb. Good call. I'm wrong, I always forget. I turn that part of the system on, but I forget the actual master power for it. I don't know which channels are which in here for radio. I'm just gonna turn that on to... I'm just gonna turn that on to compass mode, even though I don't know what the frequency is for here. I don't know if there even is an arc beacon at the far... Actually, there should be some on the map. Where's the nearest beacon? Oh, way up there. Fuck that. We ain't going that far. Where'd you see that? Okay, that should all be good. Gotta remember that boy. I'll turn the lighting on to bright for those. We will turn our stabilizers on. Then we'll leave our external lights off, we don't want them on. Reset the gyros. Set the gun sight up. I don't know why it starts on the reserve lamp on this. Make sure this is flipped to all tanks. It is, so that shows us our total fuel. on the outside scale. So I'm pretty sure it's on the outside scale. Missing the most important feature. There we go. Fidget around some more. Set that to about 30 meters altitude for our warning. Okay, I think we should be good now. I think. I hope. I don't think I've forgotten anything. Little bit of a rolling landing, or rolling takeoff even. Landing? What the fuck am I talking about? Okay. Let's get the wheels up. What was that course again? It was 214. So we want to come left. Hang on. Kind of hard to see. Yeah, right about there. Gears up. I'm not actually sure, Saber. That would be probably a question for Seal. Days ago, doing a little bit of hind in Blue Flag 80s since Cold War emptied out. Oh, the down there. Oh, Snos. Yeah, I see it. Yep, that's the chalky milk dispenser. Let's see if we can skim under here. I gotta remember, I'm sitting really high up in this thing. Much higher up than Petrovich is, and the optics under the nose, so I gotta be careful I don't scrape them off. It's really easy to do in the hind, I've discovered. Always gotta remember you're sitting so far above your belly. was like channel 11 or something for the live GCI on this. Although I don't know if it's going to talk to me in a helicopter. I actually quite like the look of the 52. It's a nice looking helicopter. I've already deviated a little bit off course. It's okay. So we're going basically down this valley that we're in. In fact, we may be able to see on the chart. We're going to hit the edge of this chart pretty soon, but we should be able to see it coming up. I don't need quite so much power. Hey Kebab, cheers for the follow, man. Yeah, I am good indeed. I'm quite good today. Had a decent run on Cold War earlier, and now we're doing some Blue Flag, which is probably going to end horribly, but oh well, we'll see how we go. Got the classic Russian helicopters rivalry going in chat, I see. I like both. I don't play favorites. Although I will say I have a real soft spot for the Kar-26. No, I mean the 26. Look it up. It's a flying tractor. It's glorious. It's got a pair of Vedeneev radial engines, same as the Yak-52 has. It has the most distinctive sound. It's incredible. It looks kind of like a 25. It's got the coaxial rotors and the stumpy proportions, but it was like a general-purpose agricultural and civilian helicopter, but the Poles and the Hungarians, from memory, use them militarily. I guess as like liaisons or scouts or something. They're absolutely hilarious little things. Seahawk and Kar-28, that'd be a good combo. That'd be a really good combo. Although, you know what'd be cool as well? A Sea Sprite. And it would go really, really well with the upcoming Cold War birds and the Cold War carriers. A Sea Sprite would be fucking excellent to go with the F-14, the A-6, the A-7, the F-8. Right, where the fuck are we? Questions you want to hear your pilot saying. Right on the edge of the chart. But we should be going the right direction still. We're 2 kilometers off course. We've got 16 kilometers until we reach a target. I don't remember Petrovich telling me if the weapons were ready yet. I assume they are. It'd be nice once they get the actual voice audio in. '80s is a great era. Yeah. Although, I kind of lean towards 60s and 70s myself. Especially 70s. Like, mid to late 1970s is when all the best stuff was in service. so there's nobody rolling up trying to murder me. I think we should be okay. I don't know if they'll have any AWR coverage here. I'm getting pinged off my right side, but that might be a friendly one. Okay, we want a little more pitch here, just to get us over this bump. Watch the airspeed so I don't VRS myself like I did last time I tried to fly this over the mountains. Clouds are going to make it interesting as well. I really wish it didn't show your position on the F10 map, but I'm apparently north of where I need to be. So it just kind of takes a challenge out of navigating. What we'll do is we'll pop over this snow cap in front of us, I think, then dip back down the valley, because I'm going to have to get Petrovich looking in the correct direction. Ah, half an hour until server restart. Man. One thing I will say is it's kind of hard to spot the own position slider sometimes. Especially when it's near the edges of the map. Oh, like it is here. Wouldn't you know it, my target is literally on the boundary of the chart. Of course. Where else would it be? Kind of weary of how close I am. At least our countermeasures are actually turned on. Petrovich does that now. I don't think I have seen it yet. It's also going to be in a cloud shadow, it looks like. So I'm going to be heading northeast up this valley. I'm going to watch my speed. I don't want to exceed 350. I don't want to reach 350, let alone exceed it. We've got to get Petrovich looking in the correct direction as well. Should be right up there by the fork in that river, I think. Still a little fast, but not too bad. Where is it? That's it. Yeah, I know you can't move the site yet. Keep this open. Oh, those are for me. I got way too close. I would love all of those things being added to DCS. Okay, I think we should be out of range now. That was a little sketchy. That's why you make sure you leave yourself enough room to turn around and egress without dumping all your speed like I just did. But these valleys make it kind of hard because they're kind of too narrow for the hind to turn, in a way. Like, you can turn, but you lose all your speed doing it like this. Ideally in the hind, you want to hold your speed through the turn. You never want to go below about 200 kilometers per hour on an attack run. Ideally 250. But here, because of the narrowness of these mountain valleys, I don't really have much choice. Alright, Petro, pick something. Come on, my man. There's a Sam there, kill it. Petrovich, please. No, this is Piznanya. No, he's not doing it. I don't know why he isn't doing it. Jesus, even the Vulcan's firing at me now. Bad noises. He ain't doing the thing. He's gone on strike. We'll try and go further out and come back in. Maybe higher up as well. He might not like the flat angle. Apparently he's still got Observe on, which is a little concerning. Yep. Little pitch on, get it turned around. Doesn't really like pedal turning to the right as much as it likes turning to the left. I'm full pedal right now and it's barely doing it, whereas if I was full pedal left, I would roll myself over very quickly. It's got a lot of left pedal authority. Alright, Petrovich, I need you to actually, like, do your job this time. And kill that shit before it kills us. We can just hold the fucking thing steady on it. Okay. Maybe the AAA's down? What's that? Oh, never mind. Maybe it's undefined. Yeah, we'll do that. That's probably what it is. Oh, he's going for the close ones? Really? Petrovich, why are you like this? Alright. Now I really gotta pick my fucking shit up and run. That's a tank firing at me, I think. That was a bad noise. That was a very bad noise. Yeah, we just ate shit. I don't know, I've still got to get used to using his interface. I'm used to flying with a human in the front seat. Let's see what we actually did. Since the server's going to restart soon anyway. He didn't hit the truck, bruh. He missed it. He missed the truck. My man, what are you doing? Undefined must be an Avenger, I guess. Maybe. Oh, it's probably he can't tell what it is. He's not sure. I guess. So we got a chaparral. Oh my god, we got a fucking chaparral. Of all the things to kill, we got a fucking chaparral. And a, that thing. AAV. Oh dear. So, because of these tight valleys, probably the way I should have approached it was I probably should have come in... Oh, this is the one that we tried to attack before, I think, maybe. Is it? No, it's a different one. I should probably have come in here, shot from about here, because I think this is just in range, shot there, and then use this space to turn, but I got way close. SR Sam is what Avengers and Chaparrals are known as? Okay. This train Nassams was made for? I know. Well, there's no point jumping in a new hind and flying back, because the server's going to restart, but it was a learning experience, I guess. Also, the Observant may have noticed that they added in a menu for countermeasures for Petrovich now, which is quite nice. How many air defenses are there here? There's like 2 linebackers, 2 Chaparrals, and I think 2 Avengers, and then 2 Vulcans or some shit. The flares seem pretty effective at getting rid of the Avengers, at least. Like, that's one thing that they can do. See, this is the kind of thing, I know why Alpin doesn't do it, but this is the kind of thing that we're missing on Cold War, is stuff in valleys like this to keep people out of them. All good, man. All good. My own incompetence brings me unstuck yet again. Might wait for the server to restart and come back. See what else we can do until then. Was it 20 minutes, I think? Check Korea? Could do. There's only 2 people. Well, 1 person on. So it's pretty empty. Does the MiG-21 have cluster bombs? It does, yes. In fact. Hopefully this will work. I can show you. Might do that while I wait for the Blue Flag server to restart. Has a couple of varieties. It has the RBK, which is the Soviet cluster bomb, then it has the BL-755, which is a British cluster bomb. And the reason it has that is because the Yugoslavs used them on their MiG-21s. I forgot. Update. It's probably going to crash. It's almost certainly going to crash. In fact, has it even spawned players in? I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it looks like none of the... So sometimes when you try and load a track file after an update, it'll just load in the mission with nothing else, and that's what's happened here, unfortunately. But we can use this to have a look at a few things. Like, for instance, what ammo and fuel dumps look like on the map. So, these icons won't usually appear, even if it's a friendly airfield, in-game, but you see them in the mission editor. These are fuel. And then ammo is this stuff over here. And I can't remember, maybe it's in here. Aha, yeah, this is how you check what's in it. So you've got your different weapons and stuff here. And I think you can set it so that the, I don't know if this is per selected thing or if this is for the whole warehouse, because it's showing fuel as well. But this is how you actually figure out where the fuel and ammo dumps are. You look for them from the air. On Caucasus, they tend to be really distinctive. On some of the other maps, they're a little harder to find. Anyway, that's kind of put a damper on my plan. In fact, it's put a damper on my plan to record this for later as well, so... Oh, well. Learn how to CCRP, level bomb runways with Betabs and the Sushka. God help Poo on Cold War. Yeah. The issue with the Sushka is getting there and not getting shot down. The 21 can't take as heavy a bomb load, but it's nice for getting there quickly. Oh, actually what I can show you guys. Instant action. I gotta put my pedal springs back on, so give me a second. What I can show you is something I figured out the other day. So we'll take this, we'll go cold start, because the weather's better. The takeoff one's really foggy. Just fidget myself till I'm comfortable again. We don't really need those for the distance we're flying, but we'll take them anyway. Excuse me? Excuse me? Do we not have it in the warehouse? This mission used to. Bruh. I'm heartbroken. Absolutely heartbroken. Okay, we'll try the other mission. Yeah, likewise, Boiler. They better not have fucking removed it from the game. Son of a bitch! Alright, well. If they removed it from the game, I'm gonna be fucking ropeable. It should be fun, Polo. It should be a lot of fun. Right. I like how it just disappeared there. Red. We're not going to put any air defense there, we'll just set it blue. Oh, thank God they didn't remove it from... I was going to be so pissed if they removed it from DCS. So pissed. Don't know why it got patched out of those missions. 13M1 on one pylon, 3R on the other. You can see, by the way, if you look, the R3R is quite a bit longer than the base R3, which is a Sidewinder. So it sits further back on the pylon. But yeah, we'll take this load out. Full internal fuel. Yeah, all that's good. We don't need dispensers or anything. It'll be fine. And then weather. We'll just set to light scattered. Yep, that's good. Set just to like summer. No, we'll set to like spring. Clouds and wind a little bit, I guess. Yeah, that's not bad. A little bit of turbulence, it should be okay. I'm not going to put any air defense or anything, because I don't want to actually get shot down while trying to demonstrate this, but I do want to demonstrate something. Where is it? Fly mission? There we go. It doesn't work yet, Boiler. I'm not sure if they're going to make it work, but it doesn't yet. The needle is just, like, permanently stuck in place. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Give it a couple dabs of that. Flaps are set. We are going to set this to 7 for Minvodi, I believe. Consult our handy chart here. Yep, 7. So we'll use the RSBN to guide us in. Well, we're probably going to be flying too low for it, but whatever. That still shows off at mission start for some reason. A bit of a bug. We may as well leave the nav lights on. It's not like we're going to get shot at. Sector 222, I think, for this part of the map. We'll just leave that. Turn the brightness up on that. Make sure the KSI is aligned. And I don't think the position of this actually matters, but we'll set it into bomb position anyway. This into bombing. Not that it matters that much. Just leave deflection angle 0. These don't do anything, sadly, but we'll set them anyway. We'll set that. We won't arm it yet. Okay. That should be everything, I think. One thing I do need to do, actually, is check the bearing to that lake. So once we hit the inner marker, we want to turn about 312. You know, I'm just going to cage the fucking site because that's going to piss me off. Little bit of a wing drop there because of the turbulence. Flaps in. Oh yeah, the wind's noticeable, alright. We'll begin our turn now. We'll go back to min burner. Should I get the MiG-21? Absolutely. It is a lot of fun. I can understand why people say that, Saber. If they've only flown, like, the modern jets or lower fidelity sims, trying to navigate the old-fashioned way is totally alien to them. Like, especially younger people, I feel. Like, not to get too 30-year-old boomer on everyone, but I feel like a lot of people below the age of about 50 can't cope without GPS. Like, in real life either. Like, they just can't do it. We're a bit off course, whatever. I took that turn way slower than I planned to. I can visually navigate to Minvordi, but the point was to line up on that lake, so we can still do it. We'll just head west. Because that lake is one of my turn-in markers. Can't see it from this angle. I mean, that's the thing though, like, you tell people, yeah, you can navigate in this pretty easily. It has ARC and RSBN and a stopwatch, that's all you need, right? And they're like, huh? No, that's impossible. Because, I mean, if you never use the old-fashioned systems, you never actually gain the skills you need, I guess. Okay, we're gonna flip both of those bad boys on. We're just going to cheat because our ground control will be able to tell us where we are. We're about to intercept our actual course here, so we'll turn 312. What was the old-fashioned way? A compass, a clock, and then radio navigation, which is RSBN and ARC in this aircraft. Or TACAN and ADF in a NATO aircraft, like an American or British aircraft. Yeah, we're pretty much on course. There really is a lot to be said for Dead Reckoning. Like, most of the time when I fly on Caucasus, you'll notice I tend to get lost in mountain valleys and stuff because I'm not familiar with them. But, especially when I'm flying higher up or when I'm flying over areas which I'm familiar with from Cold War missions, I know exactly where I am without having to check a map, without having to check my navigation aids, anything like that. I just know where I am. Part of that's from playing DCS for so long, you get familiar with the geography, but that beeping is a low altitude warning. I forgot to turn it off. It's set to on by default, I think, for hot starts. Just about there. The turbulence is actually noticeable. Wouldn't you know it, DCS does model turbulence, you just never fucking see it in multiplayer because people don't put it in their missions. I wish they did, it makes it more interesting. Okay, there's our lake, so once we're past that, we're going to turn in. We're aiming for that flat top mountain over there. Better ATC setup make people more interested in navigating in DCS? Probably. It would help. I don't know if it would make them totally interested. What I'd really like to see is mobile, or like not mobile, but the ability to set up RSBN stations from trailers, like they were in real life, rather than just use the ones fixed to the airfields. Okay, so we're screened from the airfield itself by that mountain. If I wanted to, I could fly this lower, but since we do have turbulence, I want to give myself some margin of safety. We're gonna flip the emergency burner switch on, because we're about to need it. We're gonna hit the attack release, although I don't think we actually need it in terms of the nuke. I think that's only for the wing pylons. 1,200 kilometers an hour indicated, which is plenty fast. That's the town of Minvodi, or whatever it is, the one next to the airfield. The airport is behind this mountain, right? Bear that in mind, behind the mountain. We're going to aim for this notch right here, between the trees. We're going to go full emergency burner. Going to get as close as I can to this. Begin pulling up. I want 45 degrees or so. Can't pull more than 6G or the bomb falls off. Why didn't it come off? Bro, why did it not come off? Oh, because I'm in air-to-air mode. God, I'm dumb. There we go. I've totally messed up my attack run now. Good job, me. I'm so used to flying air-to-air, I didn't think to switch that around. Hang on, we'll restart this. At least it's a hot start. Can you follow it through? I could still make the attack, but I kind of messed up the parameters. I'd have to go around. PVO brain does strike again, yes. We should have everything we need loaded up. Come out of emergency burner, set the RSBN. Silas, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Flip that. Put the lights back on. Was it 2, 2, and 2? Set these, but we won't arm it. We will set the tack release, or I will forget it. Although, like I said, I don't think it actually matters. Course is aligned. Set that for bombing. Set it to manual. Set the gyro off just so it isn't bouncing around. Set that to ground this time. And then flip that over. Now we should be configured correctly. 1, 2, 3, and a bit. The bearing was 312, I think, for that lake. Pretty much straight off the runway. This wind is definitely making it interesting. Whoa! Very interesting. That push as you take off. You need quite a bit of left stick to get it straightened out. What is VVS brain? That's a good question, actually. I haven't thought about that one yet. Okay, down to min burner. You shut up. Or it's going to annoy the shit out of me. Okay, now we should be good to go. Bomb is armed. Air Force brain would be clinging on to outdated concepts like 50 years after they become outdated and thinking it'll be different this time. And also reclassifying aircraft just to look better for public relations. Little known fact, the A-10's genesis was a counter-insurgency aircraft from the Vietnam War. That's why it's so good at counterinsurgency and why it would be so crap at actually fighting tanks in a peer-on-peer conflict. Is the MiG-21 your favorite aircraft? It's one of my favorites. My favorite jet is the MiG-23, but of all the ones we have in DCS that are playable at the moment, it's the MiG-21. Saber, behave yourself. Before I start telling everyone how much you love the F-14 and how Top Gun's your favorite movie. Have a poster of Tom Cruise above your bed. Watch out for these power lines. They're very hard to see at this time of day. You ever seen a MiG-21 in person? Pretty sure I have when I was like a kid, because I grew up in England and we used to travel across the continent a lot and they have a lot of museums there. I haven't seen one in a very long time though. Like, as an adult that I actually remember it, no. I was going to, last year I was meant to be going to Europe before the whole COVID thing happened, and I was going to see a couple of them there, but that didn't happen, unfortunately. Yeah, the A-10's survival time in actual war with the Soviet Union would have been, like, negative. Same with the Su-25, they just weren't going to be able to hack it in that environment. Oh, that's the other thing. I need to get rid of my wing tanks. Real PVO brain hours. Okay, there we go. Wing tanks are gone. We're nice and clean. As clean as you can be with the RM-28 hanging off your belly. My lineup is a tiny bit off, but that's okay. We can extend out a little further. The fact you can hear that Morse code means that I can see the navigation beacon. So if I'd gone a little further south, that wouldn't have been an issue, but it just caught sight of me around the edge of that mountain. Either way, the point's the same. You can use this approach from Nalchik to Minvodi if you have a mission set up where that's necessary to make a really good pop-up attack with the RM-28. I'm gonna hit the emergency burner switch just so when we put full burner in, we get as much power as the plane can give us. Why is the Su-25 developed? It was a result of counterinsurgency, so it was the doctrine. I don't remember exactly for the Su-25, to be honest. I think it was mostly for low-intensity mop-up kind of stuff. That's certainly what it got famous for, and what it was best used for. Okay. Here we go. This time it should come off when I tell it to. Final switch check, air to ground, bombs armed. .45 degrees, and release. It's off. We're going to continue the loop through. Still an emergency afterburner. Gotta watch my speed here so I don't overspeed and kill the engine. Okay, we're good. Back in a E-burner. And we're gonna scooch out of here as quickly as possible. Still behind the mountain. So that should... If the shockwave was realistic, instead of the way it works in DCS, that should screen me from the worst of it. bomb should have gone off by now, so let's go investigate our handiwork. Obviously, in a real attack, you wouldn't go back, you just go straight home, but I want to see what we killed. A lot of shit, by the looks of it. Reason I'm doing this with the RN-28, which is the smaller bomb, the RN-24 is the big one, is because the RN-24, because of the instant shockwave, will kill you if you do this. In real life, the thermal wave arrives pretty much instantly, but the shockwave takes time to propagate. That's why you can outrun it if you're fast enough. But in DCS, explosions aren't simulated in that much detail, so you can't outrun shockwaves because they just arrive instantly. Well, that looks pretty convincing, but it looks like it landed maybe a little short. I still got to work on my accuracy, so when I did this offline the other day, I put the bomb literally on that hangar. Like, it was right on that hangar. So the crater is... The crater's all cut up because the way craters work in DCS. It's on a hillside, so it's kind of cutting it off. Makes it hard to tell exactly where the bomb impacted, but I'm guessing it was... there. Those look intact, so yeah, the bomb probably hit right about there. Last time I did this, all of those were gone. So I think it landed a little short. It probably hit right about there. And that hillside was just enough to screen it. Although, to be honest, if there were players parked down there starting up, it probably would have fucked them up. We can always check intact view as well. Do you think the terrain blocked the damage? Probably. Yeah, probably. Is that a... yeah, it's a road. I got traffic on, otherwise I'd do a road landing just to show off. But doing that with traffic turned on is a bad idea. How much fuel we got? Oh, we got a bit. Who wants to see a zoom climb to, like, I don't know, however high we can get with this little fuel? My record is 27,909 kilometers, I think it is. Or not kilometers, meters. So 27.9 kilometers altitude, which is like 90-something thousand feet. It was like 91 or 92,000 feet in the MiG-21 in DCS. We've got to get up to about 10 kilometers, and then we can start accelerating, but we're quite low on fuel, so I don't know how much speed we're going to get out of it. You need about Mach 2 to make that kind of altitude. It's one reason you'll never see the Hornet go that high, ever. It physically can't do it, it doesn't have the airspeed. We're already climbing at Mach 1.25. Won't build a road-based MiGs on Cold War with just the CTLD ammo truck? Oh. Well, I mean, I think I suggested it in the thread a while ago, and I still stand by this. He should make it so that if you drop an SKP, an ammo truck, and a fuel truck, it just auto-generates a road base. Eight kilometers. It's about our best fuel efficiency altitude. Mach 1.6. Still climbing. Okay. Normally if I had a full fuel load, I'd climb a little higher before beginning the ballistic arc, but we'll begin it here, I think. Or no, we won't, because that's my limiting speed right there. We need to go higher. So, Mach 1.9, but at this altitude, we're reaching our never exceed speed before we hit our maximum Mach speed, so we need to go a little higher up. Nearly out of fuel. Nalchik is channel 8, I believe. Yep. And we're pretty much right over the airfield, so if the engine cuts, we're good. Okay, Mach 2.1. That's our maximum Mach. Let's pull this baby up. Level the wings, because I put in a little right stick there when I didn't mean to. We're a little past 45 degrees, but eh. Just gotta watch the wings, hold them level. There goes the engine. At about 23, 24 kilometers, the engine starves from lack of oxygen. How's that for a view, guys? And that's 28. Oh my god. Are we gonna get a new record here? 28, 29. Are we gonna see 30 kilometers? Holy shit. That's the new personal best, although that's with less missiles than I had last time. 30,558 meters. That's a new personal best. And we actually do still have a little bit of fuel left, so we'll go down, relight the engine once we're a little lower, and we'll land at Nalchik. And that's Nalchik down there. So we're very conveniently placed for it. So how's the view up here, guys? That's something you'll never see in an F-18, ever. I don't think even the F-16 can come up here in DCS. The Tomcat can, but I don't know about the 16. To reach this kind of altitude, you have to have an aircraft capable of Mach 2. Anything less than that, forget it. I'm a billionaire. Yep. We're all billionaires now. Doing Mach 1.9 with the engine off, by the way, from that dive there. I want to stabilize the aircraft a little, start trimming nose down since I had a nearly full back trim there during the climb. Once we're subsonic again, I can relight the engine. Without a pressure suit, if the canopy pressure seal held, no. If the canopy pressure seal had a hole in it, yes. The reason you're forbidden from flying higher than, I think it's in the Soviet Air Force, I think it was like 20 kilometers, no. Was it 20 kilometers? Might have been 15. But the reason you're forbidden from flying higher than that without a pressure suit is if you have to eject or if the canopy seal fails. The aircraft does have a pressurized cockpit to an extent, but it's not really safe enough if something goes wrong, if that makes any sense at all. Okay, we're subsonic, we're going to relight the engine. There's the ignition light just came on. Nuke panel, we went and dropped a party favor at Minvodi. And then did a 30.5 kilometer zoom climb afterwards. Okay, engine's relit, relight switch goes back off, and we begin our landing approach. I'm just waiting for the day. I might actually make a mission simulating it with the MiG-25, since it can go up there and go even faster, but I'm waiting for somebody to make an AI SR-71 so I can shoot it down with this and prove that Ooh, only the Viggen could intercept... Like, no. Anything that goes Mark II and can climb that high and has a radar could kill a Blackbird. The whole reason that none of them ever got shot down is because the Americans aren't stupid and didn't provoke the Soviets by crossing their border. They flew next to it. The PVO, which is the Soviet Air Defense Service, would use Blackbird overflights of the water just off the border as a sort of a practice intercept. Like, they'd use it as a drill that they could do. The Czechs also practice intercepted them as they passed along the German border. One pilot intentionally asked for permission to fire after locking one up just to say he'd done it, causing considerable panic at the control room. It's a very impressive aircraft, but it's not invincible. This is a little fast for an approach, but that's okay, we can dump speed on the way in. A lot of people have the idea that to intercept something you have to be faster than it. That's not true at all. You just have to be able to position yourself in front of it, below it, and at the correct distance. If you've got a radar and radar-guided missiles, that's all you need. I could be in a fucking Cessna. As long as the Cessna is able to get high enough, that's all that matters. And has a radar and missiles. Okay, gear down. Full flaps, since I'm coming in high and fast. What altitude you begin your zoom at? Like 12 kilometers or something. 14 maybe. I'm also very light though, because I was nearly out of fuel when I did it, and I'm carrying 2 less missiles than I did when I did my previous attempt. Although these are heavy missiles. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The faster you are, the better, because it makes your life easier, but it's not a necessity. We've got a crosswind. We have a substantial crosswind, which I should have remembered since our takeoff was so hairy. Little more power. Little more power. Oh my god. I wish I'd put down a windsock. This must be insane. I have a habit of landing on the left side of the runway from flying on the Cold War server, where that's general practice to avoid collisions. Also, in real life, I have a lot of trouble landing on the center line. I'm always slightly left or right of it. And we're down. We'll get a kind of lined up on the runway, get the chute out. Pull the flaps in. Get rid of that. Turn the nozzle brake off since we don't need maximum braking effort anymore, and we can pop the lid, get some fresh air. Been a while since we've seen A4 stuff. Would you be willing to try that? Probably not today, but I would like to do some more A stuff, yeah. What I might actually do, although I think I might have used up my suggestion points with him recently, is I might annoy Alpin and see if maybe he'll make a limited, like a special limited edition mission like he's doing for tomorrow, and tell him, since it's not regular gameplay, maybe use the A4 for that. I know a lot of people on the server want to use it, so do I, but it's not suitable for normal day-to-day Cold War operation because of all the issues I've mentioned before and in the thread. But for a special event, I think it'd be fine, and it'd be a lot of fun to use. My dude, the US ceased all overflights of the Soviet Union with manned aircraft after Francis Gary Powers got shot down. That's the whole reason that was a big thing. They flew along the border to show that they could do it. They had the option if they needed to, but they never overflew Soviet borders. Why do you think a Blackbird never got shot down? If a Blackbird had crossed Soviet borders, literally within seconds it would have had about 5 different SAMs firing at it, let alone interceptors scrambling. Like, the Soviets are not going to just let the Americans fly over their territory. They wouldn't even let airliners fly over their territory unannounced, man. They're not going to fucking let that happen. The Americans did, however, perform manned overflights in the A-12, which was the smaller, faster predecessor of the SR-71, over North Vietnam. They did overfly that multiple times, and the Vietnamese did shoot at it, and they nearly got a hit. It took them a lot of missiles to do it, but eventually they got one close enough that when it not proximity fused, when it command detonated behind the aircraft, a piece of the missile itself, not shrapnel, but a piece of the missile itself, actually punctured a fuel tank and lodged in it. The Americans found it when it landed. There are documents available on that. If you go to the CIA reading room, the whole report's up there, including the description of the flight, description of the piece of metal that fished out of the fuel tank. Luckily, the A-12 and the SR-71 by design leak enough fuel on the ground as it is that a small hole is not going to make a big problem, but it was pretty impressive. And you've got to remember as well, at that kind of altitude, there's so little air that a missile detonating 300 meters behind you can actually hit you with something. It won't be enough to down you necessarily, but it can hit you with something. What Soviet aircraft shot down Flight 007? That would have been the Sukhoi Su-15, which is one of my favorite jets, which you will see right there on the screen at the moment. That is a Su-15 TM. And that is the same type as the aircraft that shot down Flight 007. That one's a MiG-23 right there, don't worry about that one. But yeah, it was a Su-15. A couple of MiG-23s were also scrambled to make the intercept, but they couldn't get to the target before they got too low on fuel, so it was the Sushka that made it. Both civilian airliner shootdowns over the Soviet Union, Flight 007 and the other Korean Airlines flight, I think it was, what was it, 863 or something like that? I forget. The one that got shot down over Murmansk and actually landed on a lake, a frozen lake. Those are both by Su-15s. Everyone gives the MiG-25 the glory because it was the fastest and the highest flying, but the Su-15 was the primary interceptor of the Soviet Air Defense Force for most of the Cold War. How many subs do you to make a Su-24 into mission card? I gotta find a good photo of it that fits. I got a whole bunch of photos of the MiG-21 I wanted to use, but none of them fit the correct resolution or anything like that, so... The Blackbird's cameras could see... Yeah, exactly, like it didn't need to directly overfly something to see. Same way that when the Soviets developed a reconnaissance version of the MiG-25, the MiG-25 RB and RBT, the RB had side-looking cameras and the RBT had a side-looking radar. So you don't need to directly overfly something to actually see into it, especially from that high up. You know, from like 80,000 feet, you can be dozens of miles away and still see perfectly clearly with a good enough camera. Anyway, let's go and jump back on Blue Flag. Give me a moment to sort my pedal springs out here. So for those who might be new here, I have MFG crosswinds for pedals, and without a doubt my favourite feature of them is if I want to fly a helicopter or something where I don't want the centering spring to actually center the pedals, all I have to do is just duck under my desk and unhook a single spring. It's so simple. How many on Cold War? Oh, empty? Yeah, it is empty. It emptied out like an hour ago. VKB? No, they're MFG. It's a guy in Croatia that makes them. Also, as far as the SR-71 not getting shot down thing goes, the SR-71's maximum recorded speed that it ever achieved, and I mean, this was ideal conditions, they planned this down to get the weather right, get everything right. The maximum speed that aircraft ever attained was Mach 3.32, which I think was just shy of 2,000 knots on the day they flew it. Obviously, Mach speed, well, not obviously, I guess, but Mach speed changes, like the speed of sound changes based on temperature and air density and a few other things. So you need ideal conditions to get a better Mach number, and that's what they did. They flew the perfect day for it from where they could. They got 3.32 and the aircraft was running very low on fuel, and the skin temperature was rising quite fast. They didn't want to push it any further. Still fucking impressive, right? I think the actual limit per the manual is about 3.32 as well, so that figures. The speed of a S-200 missile, well, like a missile from an S-200, a V-880, is like Mach 5. Like, these missiles are faster than a fucking SR-71, trust me. They're not going to tell you the max speed. They are, actually. I have the page from the manual that tells you. Like, it's not that secret anymore. These things have been out of service for, like, longer than the average Twitch viewer has been alive. Like, you guys maybe not, because I think I have an older audience here, but, you know, the kids out playing Fortnite and shit, they've never seen an SR-71 fly, let alone in military service. So if you know where to look, the pages of the manual are out there. I have some of them. I have the graphs that show the maximum speed, maximum mark. I have the ones that show the dynamic climb performance. Like, you can find them. They're on the internet. The whole mystique of, oh, it could go like Mark 5 or Mark 7, they'll never tell you. It's bullshit. It's people do that shit to sell books, man. People do that shit to sell books. Hiru, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Hope you're having a good day. Let's go get another hind shot down through our blithering incompetence. That would be an amazing thing to see. And hear. Could you imagine the sound from that? It would be incredible. Huh? What? What just happened? Oh. Oh, okay. Why did it integrity check that? I haven't even changed that texture. I'm gonna have to restart my DCS because of that. Hang on. The idea that some secret modern spy plane's faster than SR-71 is kept. I mean, they're working on a successor to it, allegedly. The Aurora was a whole thing in the 90s. I don't know if it ever existed. There's claims for and against. I don't really care, to be honest. It's cool, but I don't really care. Doesn't make much difference. The only advantage of having a spy plane these days that goes that fast is you have instantaneous intelligence over a certain area. Like, this is something they did with the U-2 in Afghanistan, is because the U-2 had such good loiter time, and because it was out of reach of fucking everything in that area, not everything, but everything in that area, they just loitered a U-2 over Afghanistan, and they would use that as an actual radio relay for troops on the ground. And so the U-2 was not only relaying info around different groups of forces in Afghanistan, acting as like almost a controller of sorts, but he was also able to go places and see things pretty much in real time. Whereas with like a spy satellite, you don't have that. You've got to wait, you know, 10, 15 minutes, an hour, or whatever, until its track takes it over the place you want to take a photograph of. Whereas with the spy plane, you can put it there, like, right now, if it's already in the air. Oh yeah, no one is trying to sell books about the SR-71 in 1982, but they have been since. And I have never seen, and I mean literally never seen, any actual documented concrete evidence to prove that it went faster than 3.32. Brian Schull, I think, from memory in Sled Driver, said that they did 3.32. There were a few accounts of it. The official record is 3.32. The charts all say that's very close to its theoretical maximum speed. And, like, all the claims about, oh, it could have gone Mark 4 if this, or it could have gone Mark 7 if... Like, there's people that try and say, oh, it went Mark 7 based off some arse-backwards maths they did on the back of a napkin. No. No, it's false hype. Bunch of fucking cope and seethe, to be honest. I don't get it either, because why would you overhype the SR-71 when the A-12 exists? The A-12 is the SR-71, but smaller, faster, and it flies higher. Like, if you're gonna hype the shit out of something, hype the A-12, goddamn. I know, right? But it's such a cool plane, it doesn't need, like, these fantasy numbers thrown around it. It's just fucking cool. Look at the thing. Who cares if you think it could go Mark 7 even though it couldn't? Just fucking look at it. Tell you a story about an F-104 pilot who tried to chase the SR-71. It was still a secret. Ooh, I bet he got an interesting debriefing when he landed. Very interesting debriefing. I don't know if you saw Ward Carroll's video about when he was participating in Constant Peg, but he mentioned that as part of the briefing they were told if they had any kind of emergency short of the plane is going to fall out of the sky, we have to land right now, they were not to land at Tonopah. They absolutely were not to do it, because if they landed there, it was going to be at least 2 weeks while they debriefed them on everything they saw. And it wasn't because the MiGs were there, it was because the F-117 was in testing there. Which is pretty crazy. Land at the wrong airfield and you're stuck there for 2 weeks. Oh, I think I know what happened. The server restarted. I rejoined right as the server restarted and it booted me back out. 3.2, I think, was actually a Soviet pilot flying for the Egyptians. The Soviets deployed, I think, 2 detachments, one after the other, like, well, by a couple of years separation, to Egypt, but they were under Soviet control, Soviet pilots, everything. With the MiG-25, there are claims, and I've seen the mathematics behind it, but I'm not good at maths, so I can't confirm this is true. Allegedly, the actual maximum speed ever attained by a MiG-25 was like 3.4 or 3.6 or something. But it was at a specific latitude. And the temperature of the upper atmosphere changes based on latitude. And so at specific latitudes you have a slight advantage or disadvantage to speed. Either way, there was like a whole video on the mathematics of it. It doesn't really matter. We know that the MiG-25 has at least attained 3.2. And the reason it had a Mach 2.83 service limit is not because the engine would explode if it passed that. It's not because the engine turned into a slag heap as soon as the plane landed. It was because the longevity of the engine was an issue. You don't want to burn up the engine in half its actual lifetime just to show off, right? And also skin heating and canopy heating in particular. There was one pilot who went for a speed record and set his canopy on fire, which would have been interesting. But this is the thing, it's people have this idea that as soon as the MiG-25 passed Mach 3, its engine would just like shit itself, it was beyond help. No, so you've got a number of factors coming into play there. You've got skin heat, which is bad, right? And there's no skin temperature gauge in the MiG-25 as far as I'm aware. That was quite rare. The only aircraft I know of that had that were the F-111 and the, I think the Tornado had one? And what was the other one? I fucking mentioned it earlier. It was the F-111, I think the Tornado, and the SR-71. That's right, of course it had one, it needed one. So you need a skin temperature gauge to make sure your plane isn't about to disassemble itself because it went 1 degree over its tolerance. And then it was also running into a stability issue, so most of Mikoyan's fighters above certain Mach speeds, 2.05 for the MiG-21, the early ones, 2.1-ish for the later MiG-21s with a thicker spine, 2.35 for the 23 and 29, and then 2.83 for the MiG-25. Past those speeds, you start losing your stability. I think it was longitudinal stability. I can never remember which one, but I think it's longitudinal stability they started getting a bit shaky on. And that's controllable, but it's bad, because if you have any issues and the aircraft's in this unstable regime, it's very easy to overstress it and just disassembles itself completely. And I'll come back to that in a minute, because that killed an American general. So you've got skin temperature limit, you've got stability limits, you've got the actual thermal limitations on the engine. So while it won't immediately slag the engine, it isn't good for it. It will shorten its lifespan significantly. It's like running the emergency afterburner on the MiG-21. It doesn't blow the engine up, but it shortens its service life by a significant amount, right? Speed record in the 21, I think the most I ever achieved in it before the engine shit itself was 2.15. So you've got those factoring in. You've also got that any G-force at that kind of speed is going to be fucking immense. So if you accidentally kick the pedal even, like if you bump the pedal with your foot because you're trying to itch your leg or something, you could potentially break up the plane. It just, like that, you could over-G the plane and break it up. So there's all sorts of really dangerous shit happening around that kind of speed. And another one is potential engine overspeeds. And I think this is what actually happened to that MiG-25, is once you get to a certain speed, it's possible, not a certainty, but it's a possibility that the engines will not want to slow down. And there's other things too, like you can't just cut the throttle to idle. That's a good way to throw a compressor blade and blow the plane up from that kind of speed, right? Because the engine's spinning so fucking fast and the dynamic pressure's so high. You can't chop the throttle, you have to slowly come off the power, and above certain altitudes you can't come out of afterburner. Particularly with the older engines. If you come out of burner, I think it's above 15 kilometers in the MiG-21, the engine will at least flame out and possibly start chucking components of itself out the side of the plane. Engine blow-ups at high speed are really bad. One of Mikoyan's chief test pilots, who ended up getting a lot of world speed records in the MiG-21, I don't think he flew after this. When he was testing the Vosim, which was to be the MiG-23, the original MiG-23 design. It was a MiG-21 PFM with canards on the nose, like a chin intake. It looked kind of like a Eurofighter in the 60s. So canards on the nose, chin intake, and then everything from the cockpit back was just MiG-21. It had a really powerful engine in it, but it was kind of unproven and unreliable. And when he had that thing at about Mach 2.1, I think it was, the engine threw a compressor blade straight into a fuel tank. The aircraft blew up. He ejected it a little over Mach 2 at very high altitude, broke just about every bone in his body, and I'm pretty sure he never flew again after that. He survived it. He's fucking lucky he survived it. So yeah, if bad shit happens and you're past the service limit of your plane, you're dead. That's it. You're fucked. There's pretty much nothing you're going to do, right? That's the reason service limits exist. To preserve the life of the airframe, to preserve the life of the pilot, to avoid bad shit happening faster than the pilot can account for it. So, to come back to the American general who died because of the stability issue, General Bobby Bond was a Vietnam ace, and he was involved in the Constant Peg program. I think he was one of the chiefs of it, one of the directors or something. He went to Tonopah and decided he wanted a jet ride. He wanted to go for a joy flight in a MiG-23. So he had no formal training in the MiG-23. He hadn't read the pilot's operating handbook. He hadn't done any of that. And bear in mind, these are Americans operating planes that they got off the Egyptians. So the Americans don't actually have the proper manuals, or they haven't translated them properly or something. The Americans had to reverse engineer most of the limitations off these aircraft, both to keep them flying and to figure out what was safe in them. So while they did a really good job, they didn't do a perfect job. And one of the things I think they may have forgot to tell him, if they even knew it themselves, is he got in a MiG-23BN, which is the fighter bomber version with the duck nose. The limiting speed of a MiG-23 fighter variant, any of the fighter variants, is Mach 2.35. That's a stability limit, right? The aircraft has the thrust to get up to about 2.5 without much trouble, but it's not safe. So 2.35 limit. To quote another American pilot, it would accelerate until it blew up. Now, he's in a MiG-23BN with the duck nose, and one of the problems, or not problems, it's a ground attack aircraft, but one of the considerations with the duck nose is that it reduces that stability margin because you've got less surface area along the sides of the aircraft and the weight and the balance is shifted slightly. And so the limiting speed on the ground attack variants, both the MiG-23BN and the MiG-27, which was developed from it, is 1.7. The MiG-27 doesn't have variable geometry intake, so it can't even achieve that kind of speed. The engine won't go up there. But the MiG-23BN still had the original fighter intake, so it was supersonic capable. Well, so's the 27, but it was like Mach 2 capable engine-wise, but stability-wise it was 1.7. And so Bobby Bond goes up in this beautiful MiG-23, and he's heard this thing's a bit of a hot rod, so he decides to test that theory out. On his first ever flight in a MiG-23, in any MiG, he slams the throttle into max afterburner. He's at like 45,000 feet or something. And before he knows it, because the acceleration of the MiG-23 is so bananas, he's doing a bit past Mach 2. And then he gets a bit more past Mach 2, and he's in a fighter bomber with the less stable design. The aircraft starts departing control on him. And he can't correct it. He's overcorrecting and he's panicking. He cuts the throttle to idle at some point. But he's lucky the engine didn't just explode at that point. I think there was like a according to the Americans, there was a mechanical inhibitor to stop the afterburner from coming off in those conditions, but I don't know. That doesn't tally with other stuff I've heard. Either way, he's in an out-of-control MiG-23, going more than twice the speed of sound. He has no idea what he's doing in this plane. He's well and truly out of his depth. He just panics and pulls the handles, and ejects at about Mach 2.2-ish, 2.3-ish probably, and very high altitude. I don't even know if he had a pressure suit on. Either way, he's killed in the ejection, and his body lands in Jackass Flats, appropriately named, which was an old nuclear testing range. And the first guy to find him sees he's a fucking general and cuts the rank off his uniform so there isn't like a huge media hoo-ha if somebody else finds him. So yeah, that was how the US Air Force lost a Vietnam fighter ace and leading general, because he did an RT fucking manual. When people talk about limitations on airframes, this is what they mean. It doesn't mean if you go above that speed, the plane explodes. It doesn't mean if you can go above that speed whenever you want, there's no consequences. It means if you go above that speed, you'd better be fucking sure you know what the consequences are, because if anything, I mean anything happens, you have like less than a second to respond to it. So that's why limitations exist, and that's why if there's a limitation in the manual, you fucking listen to it. Now here in DCS, we don't have to worry about dying if we do something stupid, so it's a fun little thing where we can... Oh, not this bug again, I gotta restart DCS. Every now and then, since last patch, my game will freeze up on loading into a server. Probably because I was talking for too long. Yeah. He had like a 30-minute over-the-canopy rail briefing, as in, because this is a single-seater, right? The Americans didn't have any twin-seater MiGs. I think they had... No, they didn't. I don't even think they had the Chinese twin-seaters for the 21. They definitely didn't have any twin-seat 23s at the time. I think they got some later. So, he had no way of actually, like, doing a FAMIL flight with somebody. He just sat in the cockpit, another pilot leant over and pointed out the important shit to him, then said, "Off you go, good luck." Flaming OnlyFans. Thanks to the follow. Great name, and welcome to the stream. Be dank if we could get the 23BN in DCS too. Yeah, let's not push our luck just yet. Just yet. It would be nice to have one day, though. Saber. I don't know if I posted it in Discord. I probably did at some point, but I'll have to look for the link again. There was a report written by one of the Soviet test pilots who tested the F5, and it was very interesting reading his opinions about it. He really liked it, although he thought it was a very fragile, dainty little thing. On his first flight, he nearly lost the nose wheel because it wasn't, robust enough for Soviet airfields. But it was really interesting. Gonna be happy once the F4 and the F111 gets added. Oh god, dude. I really hope we get an F111 one day. I really do. And I hope, if anyone here is from a third party or from ED and you guys are actually considering an F111, the most important feature is getting the dump and burn right. If you do not get that right, you'll have hordes of angry Australians all over your forums. You don't want that. You don't want that. Make sure you do it right. I can't get into the fucking server. Seriously? Yeah, that's the one. DCS, why are you like this? Give me a minute, guys. I'll try again, but it looks like I'm gonna have issues getting into Blue Flag. So what happens is DCS freezes as I load into the server, and then it takes a while to kick me back to the main menu, and in the time it takes me to kick back to the main menu, the integrity check tries to run, but because the game's frozen, it fails, so I've got to restart the game every goddamn time. Repair? I shouldn't need to repair for this. Like, it was literally working fine an hour ago, and I've got it to work without repairing it over this before. I think it's just because I am using a shader mod, If I take any longer than normal time to load into the game, it fails the integrity check, but if it loads in properly, it passes it. It's weird. What did I just come into? A lot of ranting. Want to hear what Soviet pilots thought on the F4? More robust than F5? I don't know if the Soviets ever got one to fly it, to be honest. I've seen rumors of it, and I've seen a very distinctly F4-shaped tarp. I think it was a photo from Zhukovsky, which was the main Soviet flight testing institute. But I don't know if it was a real plane or if it was a mock-up they used for training. Likewise, there was a Mirage 3 next to it. I don't know if that was a real plane or a mock-up. Both of them were covered, so there's no way to tell. What I can say is I've seen the report for the F5, I've never seen a report for a Phantom or a Mirage. Do you think they'll ever add some jet bombers or some of the turboprop naval bombers? Maybe in the distant future, but I don't think they'll add them anytime soon. I don't really see DCS, at least officially, adding aircraft with more than 2 or 3 crew members. And I don't see them adding anything with 4 engines or with that kind of range. Not flyable for players. Sass, welcome to the stream. Thanks for the follow. Seen you in Cold War quite a few times. And it's done it again. I don't know why I can't get into it. Maybe I will have to run a repair. I'll do it later. But you know what, guys? We've been going for nearly 6.5 hours, and I think we've had a pretty good run of it today. I might just take that as my sign to jump off. I hate to debate you with further hind failures, but maybe next stream, hey? Floyd, you behave yourself. Honestly, though, I'm amazed by how many people still buy the myth that the MiG-23's intakes were a one-for-one copy of the F4. Like, if you look at the two of them next to each other for literally 10 seconds, you can tell they're completely different. The only thing they have in common is the layout. The layout's the same, but that's because the Soviets already had, you know, variable geometry side intakes. The Su-15 had them. Various other aircraft had them as well. It wasn't a new thing. It's almost like the two aerospace leaders in the world arrived at the same solution to the same problem because it was just the best solution they had at the time. You know, it's... The Soviets did copy specific things, but they didn't do it because they didn't know how to do it. They did it because they needed to accelerate development. So if you look at... After World War II, the Soviets copied the B-29, and that was literally, they reverse engineered it rivet for rivet. That was because World War II kind of put a damper on their own heavy bomber development. And they had to catch up somehow. So rather than try and, you know, spend another 10 years developing their own bomber and still being behind the curve, they said, the Americans landed one of these at one of our own airfields, and this is like the most modern bomber in the world. Let's just yoink it. So they did. And something people never really tell you is, not only did they reverse engineer the B-29 to get the Tu-4, but Tupolev actually developed from it, and so you end up with the Tu-180 and the Tu-185, and both of those were actually really impressive. Like, they were derived from the B-29, but the Soviets actually took the B-29 and made it better. The Americans were kind of doing the same thing with the B-50, but after that they switched over to a new type, B-36, as well as the early jet bombers. But the Soviets actually kind of, rather than following the same development path the Americans did, they took the American bomber as a basis and made their own developments upon it, which is generally when the Soviets did copy something, that's exactly what they did. They didn't just slavishly copy it and copy every modification of it. They actually made changes and made improvements that suited their own philosophy. The reason the Tu-185 didn't enter service is because the Tu-95 had already been designed in parallel with it. So Tupolev basically made his own design irrelevant by having a much better one, which is still in service today, unlike the B-29. They did that with a few things. The Trilux rifle sight, the British Trilux that they used to have mounted on the L1A ones, the Soviets, I don't know why they did this, the Soviets somehow got their hands on one of those and copied it. I don't know why. Of all the optics on Earth, they chose that. I guess they saw something they liked. But that's the thing. The 1P29, which is usually seen on AKs, AK-74s especially, that was a reverse-engineered and slightly modified British Trilux sight. the Soviets added like a little range scale like the SVD scope has, the PSO-1. So they did modify that as well. Like, every time they took something and copied it, they improved upon it. Yeah, it is Sabre. It actually is. The Arc 5, which is the radio set, or radio compass set, the MiG-15, the Su-15, early MiG-21s, the MiG-19, they all use it. You'll notice the MiG-19s is exactly the same as the MiG-15. It's a Bendix radio compass. It's an American radio compass. The Soviets got them on Lend-Lease in World War II, thought, yeah, this works pretty well, and they just produced their own. Like, they eventually produced updated Arc systems like Arc 9, but at the time, they're like, this works, why change it? Just build our own. VA Goes, thanks for the follow. Trying to think of other places where they definitely copied. There were a couple. So the first operational SAM system, the S-25, which by the way is an incredible system, even into the 70s it was incredibly advanced, because it was so big. The Soviets initially based that off the German Wasserfall from World War II, but Wasserfall was not actually that great. It wasn't bad. It was the first guided surface-to-air missile ever built, but it wasn't fantastic. The Soviets took a lot of rocketry stuff from the Germans, but they got rid of most of it pretty quick. What they actually kept was the Germans' preference of fuel. So the Soviets stuck with liquid fuel for a very long time, and particular types of liquid fuel like RFNA. They really liked that. But the S-25, in terms of its actual propulsion system, was very similar to Wasserfall, while the actual missile itself, the guidance system, all of that was Soviet-designed. And for the first ever SAM system to be operational, this is in the 50s, by the way, each S-25 site, I mean each of them, they were formed up in 2 concentric rings around Moscow. Each site could track and engage 20 targets. Usually they'd track and engage 10 at a time, because they'd fire 2 missiles at each. So it had 20 target channels, but usually it'd be using 10 for one 10 missiles for one channel and 10 on the other, and each target would have 2 channels on it. So it was really impressive. The reason they didn't keep doing it was because it was prohibitively expensive, and it was not mobile, because the system had so much raw power. Like, this kind of processing power in 1950 was buildings, entire buildings devoted to the actual tracking system. So they had track while scan, but they just couldn't make it convenient. So they kept the S-25 in rings around Moscow, because that was the premier, oh god, the Americans are trying to nuke our capital system. And then they developed the S-75, the Dvina, the one that we're all familiar with as the SA-2. They developed that as a less capable but more mobile system, because they had this massive border they needed to defend, but they couldn't put an S-25 base at every point along it. So they went with a smaller, lighter, less capable, but cheaper and easier to move unit. Wolfgang's Flotilla, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, that's how they got the R3S. So what happened was, this is back when the PRC and ROC, Taiwan, were having a lot of airborne scraps over the strait. Cheers for the follow, by the way, Mansour. They were having a lot of air-to-air engagements over the strait. And the Chinese had MiG-17s, while the Taiwanese had F-86s. Now, the F-86 was a fine fighter, but it was not a match for the MiG-17, which you might consider a little bit more high-performing than the MiG-15. It was faster, it could climb better, it could accelerate better, and it wouldn't try and kill itself in a high-speed dive like the MiG-15 does. So, to try and equalize that balance, because the Chinese were just swooping the F-86s and then flying off, standard boom and zoom shit, because it worked. Like, why would you not do that if you have the advantage? To try and equalize this, the Americans actually gave their brand new GAR-8, later known as the AIM-9B, to the Taiwanese and fit it to their Sabres. This is why the Sabre in DCS has the AIM-9B, GAR-8, whatever you want to call it. And so, during one of these engagements, a Taiwanese F-86 fired a GAR-8 at a PRC... dust on my screen again. A PRC MiG-17. The missile tracked, and it actually hit, which is quite rare to actually get hit by an air-to-air missile physically. But it failed to detonate. And so the missile embedded in the tail section of the MiG-17, the pilot landed with this missile sticking out of his jet, and the Chinese very quickly provided the missile to the Soviets to reverse engineer it. Now, the Soviets had to devise their own seeker head, because the one in the missile had been destroyed by the impact. They also had to build their own engine, because the one in the missile had been burnt up. Remember, this is a solid fuel engine, so you can't just refuel it. You have to redesign the engine when it's fired. But the other thing that kind of worked in the Soviets' favor here is they had better rocket engines than the Americans did. So the R3, the initial copy was really shit. The R3S, which was the actual service version, the improved version, was slightly better than the GAR-8 or AIM-9B. I think it's a bit exaggerated in DCS, but I've got nothing to back that up other than just, accounts of their use. I have no actual hard numbers to back it up, otherwise I would have posted a bug report. But I think the R3S in DCS overperforms a little, and the AIM-9B underperforms. In my opinion, I could be wrong. If anyone does have the paperwork, please send it to ED. But yeah, it's slightly better, because it has a slightly newer seeker and a slightly better rocket engine. It burns for a little longer. But that's how they got the Sidewinder. And the Soviets had already developed their own air-to-air missiles. They had the K5, or the RS-2US, RS-1, whatever you want to call it, which is a hilariously bad thing. I mean, it's not totally useless, but it's pretty close to it. And they just hadn't quite achieved the correct balance of innovations, I guess, to come up with their own Sidewinder yet. And so they said, okay, well, we'll take yours. And so they took the American Sidewinder, reverse engineered it, improved upon it, and it actually continued in service. So the R3S was sort of the standard Soviet short-range air-to-air missile for a long time. But as well as that, they developed off of it. So the R13, for instance, the R13M is roughly equivalent to like a AIM-9D, I think. And then the R13M1 is like an AIM-9J or so. So they had like parallel development. And it wasn't copying from the American missiles, it was, they developed, well, some of it was, I think, because I got another one later on from the Germans. But, like, they were developing their own, and then they also had the R60, which was being developed fully indigenously, and the R60 was a lot better. So, right around the time the R60 starts entering service, you see the Soviets and Soviet allies, the closer allies anyway, using up their stocks of R3s and R13s just to get rid of them. For training exercises, they would use them. And then they actually used the R60 as their main in-service missile, which was fairly short-legged and a very small missile with a small warhead, but it was incredibly agile. Like, you know, we've seen in DCS just how well those things turn. No, it was the IR Sidewinder they got their hands on. It was. That's the thing, though. Because the seeker head is so fragile and it's at the front of the missile, the actual, the warhead's about halfway down a Sidewinder, I think. Might be a little further forwards. In most Soviet air-to-air missiles, it's about halfway down the missile. The seeker head was actually destroyed by the impact. So the Soviets did have infrared seekers of their own, but they just hadn't quite got everything else right yet. So when they took their own seeker and fitted it to the Sidewinder, they were able to get it working just fine. There's a lot of... I may as well just keep talking at this point. Fuck it. I won't go to the just chatting overlay because I've got a god-awful mess behind me, which I don't want you guys to see. I'm sitting at like 0.2 Asmongold's right now, but that's still too many to be on stream. The Cold War has a lot of myths surrounding development of different systems or different weapons. For instance, the idea that the Soviets were the ones that developed helmet-mounted queuing, no, the Americans had it before they did. The Soviets didn't copy it from the Americans, they developed it independently, but the Americans had it back in, I want to say, like the late 60s, early 70s, before the Soviets did. The Americans mostly used it in helicopters eventually. They did try it in the Phantom. It was called the VTAS system. It worked a little differently than the Soviet system. It was a little more clunky than what the Soviets ended up doing, which is literally just a track IR. Like, that's where this comes from. The Soviets' helmet-mounted sight uses IR, I think it's IR LEDs. And then the two windows either side of the HUD on a MiG-29 or a Su-27 are rotating mirrors. And so it uses that and the three lights on the helmet to figure out where you're looking. The VTAS used something else, and I can't remember what it was that it used. It was like a... fuck, what was it? Some weird sensor or other. The modern JHEMX, the American JHEMX, uses magnetic fields. So if you've ever wondered what that little rectangular box on the canopy rail of the F-16 or the Hornet or the A-10 is in DCS, that's the JHEMX sensor. So that uses a magnetic field to figure out where you're looking. Likewise, I think the Eurofighter uses something kind of similar, because the Eurofighter helmet has those little bumps all over it. I think that's some sort of fucking sensor or other. So yeah, the Americans had it first in terms of the VTAS on the Phantom. I think it was the F4N that had it. But the Americans didn't have high off-bore sight missiles, so it was no use to them, and they decided, well, we're never going to need this. Can you show pictures? If I open my browser, it's going to open like a gazillion fucking windows. I guess we could try. Give me a moment here. This could go very badly. It's probably also going to start auto-playing about 20 different documentaries. Because ADHD brain. Okay, I think we might be good, maybe. Just let me change scenes. Oh god, no, it's too late anyway. I got Firefox open now. Hopefully I don't dox myself or show you anything I shouldn't have open that I do. I don't think I have anything open that I shouldn't. Hey, there we go. So this is your VTAS helmet right here. So some things you may recognize. You got your little eyeglass. It's much smaller and it's angled a bit more. The actual projector for it's over here somewhere. As for the system it used to detect where you were looking, I cannot remember where it was or what it was. Hiramachi has all the documents for it. Hiramachi from Magnitude 3, because he's really into Phantoms, Navy Phantoms specifically. So he has a lot of the documentation for the VTAS. And then if we compare to this is the Soviet system. This is the Shell 3UM. This is what the MiG-29 and Su-27 used. And you can literally see 1, 2, 3 little bulbs. It's literally a track IR. Like, that's probably where Natural Point got the idea from. And then you've got your little eyeglass. So, unlike in DCS, where you have this magical circle projected as if it's like a full-on JHEMX, what that actually projects is a little crosshair. If you've ever used the helmet sight on the Car 50 in DCS, it's literally the same thing. And it gives you different tones or different little visual indications when you've got something locked or if you're out of its gimbal limits or whatever, but it's not like a full-on HUD or anything, it's just a little reflected sight. The A10s is different, it's the wire thing on top. Oh, is it? Okay, so the A10s is different. Interesting. But yeah, on the 16 or the Hornet, it's that little box. Because I remember asking Tom about that. I thought it was one of the 8mm cameras that they use for recording the HUD and stuff. No, it's not. It's for the JHEMX. So, the Americans had VTAS. Where is it? VTAS, hello. So, the Americans had this. And then they decided, we don't need this, and they got rid of it. Part of the reason they got rid of this was... And then this is the helicopter version, by the way. This is what the helicopter guys use. And if you guys watch Gato, which you should, I think his channel picture has got one of these in. So this is what they use in Apaches now. Based off the same thing. So, the Americans didn't have high off-bore sight missiles at the time. Then again, neither did the Soviets. The R-60 came a little bit later. The Americans weren't developing seriously a high off-bore sight missile. They did have the Agile program, but Agile got cancelled because they figured that BVR was the way to go. Vietnam basically... I don't know how they got that idea from Vietnam, because basically no true BVR happened in Vietnam because of the ROE. And because the Sparrows were so unreliable. But either way, the Americans went all in on BVR, and have remained all in on BVR since. They went back and added high off-bore sight capability after they fought Luftwaffe-inherited ex-LSK MiG-29s, and had their ass beat in BFM, not BBM. Yeah, they went back and added it as a capability afterwards, but that was kind of a, oh shit, the Soviets have done this, we'd better do it too. It's happened with a few things. I kind of feel like the Americans and the Soviets would both come across a weird kind of wacky idea. The Americans would say, nah, that's never going to be useful, fuck it. Waste of money. The Soviets would be like, and they'd try it, and it wouldn't work. So they'd try it a bit more and improve upon it, and it would kind of work. And then they improve upon it a bit more, and before you know it, they have a mature technology that works really fucking well. And then when the Americans run into it again, they're like, shit, you're not that ugly kid I remember from school anymore. And that's basically what happened with the helmet sight. That's also what happened with high off-bore sight missiles. There are a lot of things like that. There was another one I was trying to think of. Oh, Erst. The Americans had Erst on more fighters than they didn't. The entire Century series had it, pretty much, except the F-100. The F-101 had it, especially the F-101B. The F-102 had it. The F-104 had it. The Thud didn't, but the Thud was a ground attack aircraft anyway by that point in its career, so it didn't need it. The F-106 had it. The F-107 was supposed to have it if it had ever actually happened. And then the F-4 had it, although it was taken out on some variants and replaced with a TV, or just not replaced at all. The F-8 Crusader had it. Like, literally, the Americans had Erst on almost every single fucking fighter they had, from the moment they had a supersonic fighter until the 4th gens. The 4th gens are the only American fighters that lack it across the board. And I don't personally consider the Tomcat a 4th gen, I'd consider it like a 3+, same as the MiG-23. But the Tomcat, when it was first designed, was to have an Erst, but it was replaced by the TCS. In fact, I think... No, the Iranian ones didn't have anything because they removed it. But I think the same batch as the American ones, the Iranian ones came from, would have had Ersts. And then the F-14D got it back. It was kind of both polar. It was fired out of parameter a lot, but it was also poorly stored and the electronics weren't potted properly. So the Americans had been testing these missiles and developing these missiles out in a fucking desert, and not stop to think, shit, maybe we're going to be fighting in a jungle at some point. We should probably pot the electronics. For those that aren't aware, potting electronics means that you're basically covering them in a resin coating so that water and shit doesn't get into them. It makes it hard to service the electronics themselves. You have to take out individual parts and swap them, because the potting is like, literally, it's a solid coating. But yeah, they didn't pot the electronics. They bashed the missiles around when they were handling them. They left them in the sun. There were a number of reasons. The Sparrow had miserable performance in Vietnam. The AIM-9 was a bit better, but not really great itself. And the Falcon, oh boy. The poor AIM-4 Falcon really did not have fun in Vietnam. And again, for the same reasons, it was bad storage, it was bad electronics for the conditions it was in. It wasn't really a glaring design fault of the missile, it was just they kind of forgot to do some important stuff. So, the Americans had Erst all the way through. Yeah, the F-14A and D both had it. The early A had it, and the D had it. The late A replaced it with the TCS. So, it's only the F-16, F-15, the F-18 that didn't have it, really, and then the F-22. So when people are like, oh, well, the Russians have had Erst all the time, and they're like, no, they didn't. The MiG-23 had Erst. The MiG-23 was the first, to my memory, the first Soviet combat aircraft that actually had a full-blown infrared search and track system, and it was still fairly infantile. It's like, especially compared to the modern stuff, it was good for its time, but it's still pretty low tech. And it wasn't a primary sensor, it was meant to be there, and this is something else, like the whole, oh, it's for stealth. No, it's not. I've said this how many times before, it's not for stealth, it's to offset difficulties the Soviets had with their radar development. So you may notice, and this is something ED fucked up with the Hornet, because ED thought that it would behave like a Soviet radar, they didn't realize American radars are a bit different in this regard. The Hornet will drop targets and lose things in the notch when there's certain velocity conditions because of the way the Doppler filter works. Now, on the actual Hornet, I think it's specifically when the closure rate's 0. I think. Is it VC 0? I can't remember. It was some specific condition. Pom would know, but he's off at boot camp. And it was an issue the Soviets had, but it wasn't an issue that the Americans had, at least not by the time the Hornet came along. It wasn't their older radars. And things like that, like the problem with Soviet radars being quite susceptible to notching or having trouble in ground clutter. In the MiG-29's case, the processor would get overloaded in the automatic mode, which is basically kind of like an interleaved high and medium pulse rate. It would get overloaded, and so it would start throwing false contacts everywhere because the processing unit, not the radar, the processing unit was overloaded. You know, this is kind of the issue with having an interleaved mode, is it tends to do this. It's why real-life radars are a lot more finicky than they tend to be in DCS. You have to be switching between modes all the time to get the best mode for the situation. Anyway, the Soviets had this issue with certain kind of target situations where they might not be able to hold a target on radar, but they needed some way of seeing it. The Soviets also intelligently expected to be jammed 9 ways to Sunday if the Americans sent bombers over. So they designed around that. They added ECCM for the radar, but on top of that, instead of just ECCM, they added the ERS to the MiG-23. And it wasn't a primary sensor, but it was like it could be used as the primary sensor if the radar wasn't usable. Like if there was too much jamming, or if the radar wouldn't pick up the target, or if the radar broke for whatever reason, you had an ERS and you could still use that. That's the point of the ERS on Soviet aircraft. Nowadays they're more capable, so maybe they do use it more as a primary sensor. I kind of doubt it, to be honest. This is one of those DCS player things where it becomes gamer min-maxing. Like, people think that, oh, well, same as like War Thunder, where people take less ammunition so they don't get ammo rack. That shit ain't real. That doesn't happen in real life, I can tell you right now. Like, nobody fucking does that. Likewise, taking off with less than full fuel doesn't happen in real life. Like, just unless the aircraft physically is going to be overweight, if it's full fuel, like say the C-101, nobody's going to take off with fucking 50% fuel. Like, it's just no. That's really stupid in real life. Likewise, the ERS isn't used for sneaking up on things. It's like, everyone in a combat environment in real life is going to have their fucking radar on because it's the best sensor they have. There's no reason to blind yourself by being radar off. Like, oh, it'll give me away on their RWR. First of all, assuming they have one. Second of all, assuming it's a good one. Third of all, assuming that it's actually on. And fourth of all, if you're on their RWR, it doesn't fucking matter because their AWACS probably sees you as well. Like, this is the thing. People on Growling Sidewinder go, oh no, you never turn the radar on in the flank. Oh no, you're only ERSed in the mountains. All it takes to break that metagame is fly at 50,000 feet in something with data link, like a Hornet, point the radar down. Just go in look down mode over the mountains. You can see over the mountaintops and spot every little fucking weasel hiding in those valleys. And then broadcast it on data link to your teammates. So that guy who thought he was so clever and so invisible and he would never pop up on anyone's RWR doesn't fucking matter, because everybody on the entire data link network can see him now. Like, the whole idea of... I mean, MCON is a real thing. I'll just get that out there. MCON is a real thing. There's a reason why usually if you're in combat, you're radio silent as much as possible. That's an old thing. That's like World War II kind of old. But at the same time, nobody in their right mind going into a combat situation, especially if they know the enemy knows they're there, nobody is going to have their radar turned off. Nobody. Like, it's just dumb. So a lot of this DCS stuff about stealth ERST or, molest fuel or whatever, I mean, it works in DCS. Fair enough, it works in DCS, that's why it's a metagame, right? But it's not real. Like, that didn't happen in real life. And you get this a lot. People do it with War Thunder, people do it with DCS. DCS players think they're automatically right when they do it because they have this superiority complex compared to the War Thunder guys, even though the two are more similar than they like to admit. DCS players will take DCS gameplay logic and apply it to real life, and it's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Like, DCS players trying to fucking quarterback a real-life engagement with knowledge from playing on fucking Growling Sidewinder? Bruh. Fucking bruh. It's like, I won't name names, but in the Gunner Heat PC Discord a couple weeks ago, I didn't check it for a few days, and I wish I had, because I came back to find this wall of drama. One of the resident War Thunder players had gone on a huge Spurg rant about how the M1 Abrams is the best tank ever, and Soviet tanks will get crushed underfoot by it, and the Soviet garbage is so useless because it doesn't have thermals. Specifically, he would not shut up about thermals. Now, show of hands in chat who's actually seen a tank's thermal sight, like either in a proper real-life video or, better still, firsthand. Because I guarantee you this kid hadn't. For those who haven't seen one, if you look for... Actually, you know what? We can do it right now. This is an M1A2. This is a modern Abrams with a good thermal imager. The original Abrams had a shit thermal imager that was literally a downgrade from the M60A3. Just to give this context. Watch this. This is a thermal imager right here. Now, this is a target range. These aren't live tanks they're shooting, but you can get the picture already. Like, it's not just a black background with white shoot me here spots. There is background radiation from heat. There is contrast there. And watch as they start slewing it around. That loud whine is probably the stabilizer gyros, I'd imagine, as well as the environmental control. That's the turret motors. See all that heat? Oh, look at that! Incredible! It's almost like it's an actual thermal imager, and the ground is hot. Who knew? And you can even see the cloud outlines there, because the clouds are slightly warmer than the rest of the sky. And listen to the gunner here. Am I really going to have target acquisition problems out here? So there's the target they found. Smoke fucks thermals really badly. And there's it's a truck target. It's like a giant sheet of board or something. And here we have... Oops. Couple stoppages. And I think what he's doing there is he's trying to, like, recharge the firing pin on the main gun. I assume that's what that cable does. But must have just been a dud primer or something in the round. And so they go with the machine gun instead. And it's cool. It looks, the traces look kind of like little ping pong balls or something coming out of the gun. And the gunner is Freddie Mercury, apparently. But yeah, that's what a thermal imager looks like. That is how this shit looks. And that's a modern one. So you can imagine a low-res, shitty contrast thermal imager developed in the 70s. And this guy's trying to argue that it's a be-all and end-all. Have you said, yeah, I have. They're really cool. Really, really cool. That's the kind of technology this guy seemed to think they had back in 1980. And so one of his things was, oh, you know, you can't even spot the fall of shot from, you know, like the T-62, because of where the gun sight is, the gunner can't even see the fall of shot. You can see there, the Abrams gunner can't see the fall of shot because the fucking cloud of smoke's in front of the gun sight. The commander is watching fall of shot. That's why if you listen to tank crews talking, the commander is calling, you know, target or over or doubtful or whatever, because the commander can see where the shot's going, the gunner can't. All the gunner can see is a face full of smoke. And so, like, this guy just had, like, full-on War Thunder brain trying to go on about how this thermal imager is this massive advantage, and the Soviets couldn't possibly hope to fight it. Like, even before the Abrams hit the battlefield, the Soviets, on any mass exercise they did with their tanks, you could see these great clouds of hot smoke coming from the engine smoke system. Which is not only smoke, which thermals can't see through, but it's hot smoke, because it's diesel fuel sprayed into the exhaust. It's just... gamer mind, dude. Gamer mind. That's what it is. People who play too many video games and never actually, like, physically touch the equipment they fucking, like, coom over. I might be wrong sometimes, but at least I try and look this shit up. You know, I make an effort. Yeah, they are literally ODST. They're really, really cool. Have you seen the color ones as well? I think that actually blew my mind more than the hybrids. Was the fact that there was actual, like, clear, distinguishable, lifelike colors at night with an image intensifier. That blew my fucking mind, dude. That's something else. This speak of night vision reminds me of something else. I'm not going to scroll down to it so I don't name and shame, but somebody in the comments of this video, I came across this the other day, someone in the comments of this video said, that's not thermals, that's night vision, because it's green. Okay, gamer. How good were the 29, 27 OLS compared to how they are in DCS? They're too good in DCS. Because they're not affected by weather and other conditions yet. So in real life, you would have a number of problems with them. You would have background radiation off the ground, particularly in hot climates, or, you know, if it was the right kinds of terrain would reflect enough heat that it would pick them up as false heat signatures. The clouds would fuck with them, because trying to see through what is, as far as the sense is concerned, a solid wall of uniform temperature water is bad. It's the same reason thermals can't see through windows, by the way. At least, not most of them. I think some can now, like the really, really Gucci sensitive ones. I think they can. But your average thermal sight cannot see through a sheet of glass. That's a head, or water. That's a heads up for any of you. If you want to fucking hide from a drone, just put a piece of glass over your head. Or go jump in a lake or something. They cannot see you. Cannot fucking see you. Or space blankets is the other thing. They can't see anything on the other side of a fucking space blanket. So... fuck, where was I? Oh yeah, the OLS. So, it shouldn't have the ability to see through clouds. It shouldn't have as good an ability to pick out targets against ground clutter. And the MiG-23's TP-23M will be like this, but even worse. So if you're trying to spot a target that isn't white hot, like it's not an F-111 in full afterburner, and it's a warm day, and the ground is heated up, you're going to have a bunch of false signatures, and you're going to have to figure out which one is him. It's going to be like, if you've seen me try and pick out a target at low altitude with the F5 radar, where I'm kind of filtering, no, that's ground clutter, that's ground clutter. That one's moving, but I think it's ground clutter. That is moving, and it's in a constant direction, constant speed, that's a plane. If you've ever seen me kind of do that mental arithmetic on the fly, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll have to filter it out, because there is no filtering system. The pilot is the filtering system, right? That's the thing with these old radars, or with early infrared search and track systems and electro-optical sensors, is the pilot themselves are the filter system. There's no computer to do it for them. Or there might be a computer, but it only does it to a certain extent. The pilot has to work out the rest. So you'll be getting a lot of false contacts from the ground, from clouds. You will not be able to lock up a target through a cloud. You just won't. If your target goes into a cloud, you're never going to see them again. And likewise, once the full IR rework makes it into the game, I thought this would come with clouds, but it hasn't yet. Once that rework makes it into the game, your heaters are not going to track through clouds. If you're in a cloud, or if you're shooting into one, the heaters aren't going to track. Forget it. Like, just don't. That's where radar missiles are really going to come into their own. As well as that, at certain times of day, the position of the sun in the sky can fuck with it. You'll get glare off certain things, or the sun itself will throw all kinds of weird false contacts. Like, it's a good system. It's certainly better than nothing, but it's antiquated by modern standards, and it's definitely not infallible. When is the ADF going to get rid of the MRH-90? I don't know. Maybe if they ever find somebody dumb enough to buy them. I did see one fly once at the Bathurst Air Show a couple of years ago. I got to walk around inside it. I didn't get to fly in it, sadly. But they're quite cool helicopters when they're not, you know, grounded. Kind of like the DMT on the HUD of the Harry, you get a lot of false positives. Yeah. Although the way that's coded at the moment, Razbam coded that just to throw, like, random false contacts. Once the IR rework arrives, I believe they intend to make it actually flag true false contacts. Canada's buying our old Hornets. I know, right? Don't think my CSM would approve of bringing panes of glass on an X. Yeah, probably not. Probably not. I mean, you could maybe get away with a space blanket. CH53K. Oh yeah, I see it, with the exhaust coming out the middle. I guess the intake's in that hump. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. The offset exhaust is kind of weird, but I can live with that. It's already asymmetrical because of the tail anyway. The way that the whole tail is, like, twisted over is kind of weird. I will say that. Like, even the rotor, that's kind of odd, to be honest. Come to the conclusion that one should never buy helicopters which are either built partially or built partially by France. I don't know. The Dauphin is apparently quite good. The Eurocopter Dauphin is really popular over here and always has been. I see them quite a lot. But yeah, Airbus helicopters seem to have a bit of a checkered past, shall we say. Show you guys what I want in DCS. This boy. This is what I want in DCS. This motherfucker right here. How good is this? Each of those, it has... Here's a Polish... Oh, sorry, a Hungarian military one. This is a Hungarian military one. Look at that. Each of those is the same engine the Yak-52 has. It makes the most glorious noise. It makes the best noise. In fact... this one, maybe. Is this the one where they fly it? We'll skip ahead a bit. I'll pause my music too, so it's not going over the top of this. This is the test of the engines. So each of these is a Vedenev M14 radial engine. I forget how many cylinders. It's, I think, a 9-cylinder engine. There we go. Tractor of the skies. Yeah, this is a piston engine. So this was designed in, I think, the late 60s or so, and the express purpose of this helicopter was to be a cheap and easy to operate, robust helicopter for agricultural purposes. So this thing's a crop duster, primarily. That's why it's got this empty space under the tail booms. Usually you'd fit a tank of, you know, fucking... insecticide or herbicide or whatever there, and then a spraying rig. But you can also put like a little passenger pod, or you can... These things, I think, could potentially even carry light weapons. I know that the Poles and the Hungarians use them militarily. I assume as liaisons, but they may have armed them as well. Yes, you could indeed use it to drop shit. You could do that, Skittles. Hope you're going well, man. Good to see ya. It sounds so good. These are cooling fans in the front. I'm about doing well, just doing... Yeah, sometimes it do be like that, man. Well, hopefully it does better in the near future. Yeah, I don't know what this is. I think it might be like a spotlight or something, but I'm not sure. They look like so much fun to fly, though. I would love to have one of these. So we'll skip ahead a bit. Test flight. There we go. How good does it sound? Listen to this. I think that's coming from the cooling fans. I know, right? Me too. There's tons of them in Hungary still. They still use them as crop dusters there every year. I don't know how fast they go, but I'd imagine it's pretty quick. They're definitely nimble. They take these to air shows and put on aerobatics displays with them as well. You know, the front of it kind of looks like a housefly, like with the two big compound eyes and then the little, I guess like the little proboscis thingy. The M15, yeah. Only the Poles could come up with something like that. So yeah, they take these out and fly them every year. How to tell you have ADHD.jpg. I let it play through like twice yesterday. Let's see. The other thing I would very much love to have. Oh. Not 16, MO6. Just what I'd love to have in DCS. Oh, fuck. Helicopter. Of course. This bad boy. Look at this. It's beautiful. Love to have one of these in DCS. It's this is the daddy of the Mi-26, which is the largest helicopter in the world. This is what led to it. And they used to use these to move around heavy equipment like parts of oil rigs and stuff around Siberia, as well as militarily, obviously. You can sit about 100 guys in this. Puggy, thanks for the follow, and Remo as well. Hope you guys are enjoying the stream. Doing something a little different at this point, I guess. Don't usually do this. Huge helicopter. I mean, you can see the 26 here. This is what kind of crap quality. Oh, there we go. This is what developed from the Mi-6. One of the deployments that some of our guys, like from my company, went to for East Timor. It was long after Timor kicked off properly. It was during the peacekeeping phase, like the late peacekeeping mentoring phase. When they landed at Dili, they got a photo of a UN painted Mi-26 with one of our Army Black Hawks parked in front of it. And even with the Black Hawk being about twice as close to the camera as the Mi-26 was, it was like not even a quarter of the size. This thing is fucking immense, dude. Like, it's just crazy how big it is. Love an MV-22 in DCS. Want it just because I know it'll be a bunch of memes of Holger crashing it. One of the airsoft fields I used to go to had old H-34s in the field. Jesus, dude, that'd be pretty sweet to play on. I've only got to do airsoft once when I went back home like 10 years ago because it's illegal here. I guess the logic being that if you give Australians a reasonably realistic looking toy gun, they'll go rob like the local bank with it. It's just instinctive. It's like in their blood or something. I don't know. But yeah, I did do airsoft once and I really enjoyed it. It was an indoor game late in the evening. My dad, when he grew up, the farm next door. And when I say next door, I mean it was like 3 miles down the road. The farmer had about half of a Lancaster just sitting in a field, like most of the fuselage. And he'd bought it on surplus when it was scrapped, because what he was doing was, over time, he was gradually stripping out the aircraft for its electronics, because it shared, I guess, just enough in common with a lot of his farm equipment, like fuses, wires, or, you know, like radio parts or whatever. That's what he did with it. And so Dad and the other kids used to go down there and sneak onto his property and play in it. Can give my firstborn child to whoever develops a 216 for DCS. Well, Deca are working on an AI H6, which should be really nice to have. But yeah, I'd like an actual 216. Yeah, I was watching Anoni did a stream, not yesterday but the day before, from Max, of the helicopter stuff. It was pretty cool. The Berkut team were on, and it was very legendary. Legendary pilots flying legendary helicopters in the legendary skies over a legendary city. All right, well, it has been 7 hours and 20 minutes, and I am badly in need of a drink before I lose my voice. I also need some lunch. I'm going to find where I can send you guys to. Bear with me, and I'm just going to yeet on back to this overlay so I don't accidentally show you anything I shouldn't when I go over to Twitch. We will see who is on. I'll send you over to them. God, it's so weird without new music playing. I might send you guys to... There's a bunch of people on that I'd like to raid, but I'm not sure which one to go to. I might send you guys to Studio Canuck today. And we can all chill out with a nice civil flight from... Where's he going? Denver to Phoenix to San Diego. Oh, that sounds like it'd be a really pretty flight, actually. Let me just get this set up. There we go. Thank you all for hanging out with me today, guys. Hope you all have a wonderful, safe day. I will catch you for armor on Monday my time. My sister might be coming around later in the day, so depending what time she arrives, we might have a guest. No, we will not do another cooking stream. My flat hasn't recovered from the last one. But yeah, we might do that. Until then, enjoy Studio Canuck. I will catch you guys later.